Well, good morning and welcome to our Solutions for Success Seminar Series. I am Mark McGill, the Director of Member Relations here at the South Bend Regional Chamber. So glad to have you along with us this morning. We're going to talk to the guys from Leadership Tap. They're going to talk about communication in the workplace. Why you want to communicate with your coworkers, I have no idea, but I guess they say it's important. So we're going to show
Some
you.
people don't, Mark. That's part of the problem.
We're going to tell you how to do that today with a couple of really good dudes. So couple pieces of chamber business. We have a member briefing next Tuesday at 8 o'clock in the morning. Again, it's virtual. Go to our website and get signed up for that. All of the departments here at the chamber will take a couple of minutes to just update you on all the great things happening throughout the chamber, from Visit South by Mishawaka, membership, economic development, educational workforce. It's really just a great quick little briefing to let you know what's happening here at the chamber. And then Wednesday night, our next business after hours at the Logan Center, the Jefferson campus, going to be a great time there. So again, sbrchamber.com is the website for all of that. Before we get to Matt and Josh, I want to bring in Evan Stark. Evan's from Sim Financial. We cannot put programs like this together without great partners. And I got to tell you, I say this all the time, but Sim Financial is a great partner, a great supporter of the chamber. They're involved in the golf outing and just really good people. So, Evan, thank you again for all of your support. Thank you for bringing us this morning, and thanks for being here.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. I've got a slide that I'll throw up here if it'll let me. Just a little graphic. I'm not always the best with using presentation tools, usually just words, but happy to be partnered with the chamber, happy to be here to learn more from our partners and just get to hear from all the awesome people in our community doing amazing things. You know, I didn't grow up in this community, and I'm always amazed at the number of businesses and just creativity, innovation that happens here. So we're happy to partner with the chamber on this series. Sim Financial Advisors is an independent fiduciary advice firm. So we give advice on pretty much everywhere that touches your finances. And we've got a team of 70 professionals with all kinds of alphabet soup after their names. And we're always happy to weigh in on any kind of question that touches on the financial lives of a business or an individual. And we love getting to serve our clients from a fiduciary position, meaning we act in their best interest. We're not commission salespeople. So if you ever have a question, just give us a call. We're happy to spend some time with you and see if we're a good fit, or if maybe we can just answer your question in an hour or two and send you on your way. We're happy to be a part of this community, and I'm looking forward to learning more from Josh and Matt this morning.
Great.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Evan. Again, thank you for all your support of the chamber. I'm not going to mention your hair because it's getting old, but you do have great hair. I'm just saying, that's all I'm going to tell you right now. All right, the guys from Leadership Tap are here. We talk about Sim and Evan being great partners and really taking advantage of their chamber membership and really maximizing it. Matt and Josh do the same thing. I met them within the last year. Have become great members, great friends, and we really appreciate all that they do and the great support they give the chamber as well. Leadership Tap is business consulting, leadership training, coaching, and business solutions. I'll tell you more about that. Matt Metzger is irrationally scared of zombies, apparently.
It's true. I can't do zombie movies.
I get it. He can't watch sitcoms because he gets embarrassed on behalf of the goofy characters like Ross and Friends, for example.
Yep.
Sorry. Wanted to be a farmer, but he can't keep a house plant alive.
Also true.
Kind of a problem.
This is very factual.
This is a really embarrassing bio.
Yeah, well, I'm just telling you, I want people to really get to know you. But his version of heaven is long walks with his wife and laughing with his 4 kids. So Josh Hartsell, he began, I love your bio, as a college resident director where he spent a decade training students in the art of personal career and leadership development. It's a classy way of saying you spent 10 years living in a freshman male dorm and managed to survive. So nothing phases you.
Barely. We learned a lot about hygiene.
or lack thereof.
Yes. There was no air conditioning.
Couple of great guys. We're in for a treat this morning. Thank you for your support of the chamber. Thank you for just being here. And without further ado, Matt and Josh, Leadership Tap. Let's go.
Right on. Well, we're going to have some fun today. And actually, we're not going to let Mark go quite yet. I needed help with just real fast. We are going to get to cracking the vault of communication and talking about candor and how that pertains to solutions for success. But first, Mark, I need your help.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. So I'm going to share the screen up here. So, Mark, we've got two, I don't know whether they're GIFs or GIFs, but we've got two these pictures flashing across to match up with the bios. Quick question for you.
Yeah.
Which of these images, either the black and white professional headshot or the candids, which one gives you a better idea of who we are when our guards are down and is more appropriate for the bios you just read out?
Pineapple glasses and red nose every day of the week.
Right. See, A+, Mark. I appreciate it. I'm just bummed that you didn't have your special, South Bend Cubs glasses on.
I didn't get the memo. I would have told put Harry Carey glasses on today.
Hey, thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
So, and actually, Mark just gave our entire presentation for us right there, right? When it comes to communication, when it comes to cracking the vault and really getting to the heart of communication so that you can succeed in relationship. And heads up, the vast majority of our conversation today is going to be on workplace, yes, business, organizational communication, but all of these apply to personal life as well. So be looking for that crossover. When it comes to succeeding in relationship, you already know that success hinges on communication. And the more candid the communication, the greater likelihood of success. We're talking getting to the real person, the red nose and the glasses, not just the professional headshot when it comes to communication. So Josh, help me out. What do we mean when we say candor?
Well, I think when we say candor, we're talking like authenticity. We're talking like the fullness of who we are, right? Oftentimes Matt and I will use the term like juicy. We like this idea of like, are you robust? Are you who you fully truly are? So when we say candor though, we mean, are you like thoroughly honest with a presentation of your unique perspectives, right? Like that is what we say when we mean candor. We also mean, are there pertinent insights and thoughts, things going on? Are you sharing what is pertinent, right? So oftentimes, like when we say candor, people just think messy, and we're not saying like there's a difference between juicy and messy, and we are not saying that candor means just throwing out, just word vomit and saying anything you want in the workplace because I'm just candid. It doesn't mean that way. Is it pertinent? Is it relevant to the situation? And also, candor doesn't just mean negativity. It's not just negative feedback. In fact, sometimes it might be corrective. It might mean someone needs to hear that they have spinach in their teeth, right? Like,
which heads up, Josh will do every time. Even it was one of the most embarrassing moments for me because I am not this guy. At a chamber event, somebody had Brussels sprouts in their teeth, and Josh went ahead and kindly pointed out, even though this person is a perfect stranger.
They weren't a perfect stranger, right?
She appreciated it though. It's fine.
So, but it's juicy, not messy, right? But is it pertinent to the conversation? And in the workplace, that can often mean insights or ideas or things that come to surface. In a relationship, it can mean ways that you can be closer together, ways that you can be more supportive, right?
Well, and think about, so in your context, right? And the easiest example is always a sales professional, right? Sales professionals watching, that you're looking for the black swan. You know that you're looking for the objection. You're looking for that one piece of information that most likely someone's not going to give you, right? Medical field, you need candid insights from the patient to know what is actually hurting here. Trying to diagnose my 4-year-old with any pain situation is terrible. What hurts? I don't know. That's not helpful. I need more candor. I need to get to the heart of things, right? Since we're talking personal relationships as well, in your personal relationships, how many times do you feel like you have to be a mind reader and you wish that you didn't have to be a mind reader? You wish that there was a way that someone could just speak their mind plainly and clearly. That's called candor. And if you had that, you could probably succeed in that relationship a little bit better.
So we all want it, but we also face a pretty common barrier to candor. And people are selective about what they share. They just are. Mm-hmm. And honestly, especially at work, we're very selective. We're oftentimes guarded. There's gaps in the communication we share. And if you don't believe me, like, are there secrets that your best friend maybe knows that your mom doesn't? I'm guessing there probably are. Or things that maybe you would tell your doctor, but not your neighbor. For your neighbor's sake, hopefully there are some things that you would not tell them, right? But what about, have you ever told a coworker something that you wouldn't tell your boss, or maybe you were afraid to tell your boss, right? So that probably happened this morning for some of us. And now here we're not just talking, especially when we're talking coworkers, we're not just talking gossip or, hey, I fell asleep at my desk yesterday, when the Zoom call, the camera was off. But
when Matt and Josh were talking, the webinar I said I needed an hour to go to.
I was on the webinar, right? But is it like the insights or the idea you have or the thing that you're like, I think that this thing's broken and but I'm afraid to tell them because what if I'm wrong, right? So we face this common barrier to candor. What reasons, I guess, Matt, what would you say, what are some of the reasons that keep us from being fully candid?
Yeah. So, when you think about the reasons that people aren't being completely free and frank, right? Is there just a power differential there, right? The other day I had an opportunity to talk with a CEO and say, hey, I know that you want this person that you're working with on this project to push back against you, but you signed that person's paycheck. There is a legitimate power differentiator there that you've got to recognize. They're not going to talk to you like your lifelong best friend. So is it a power differential?
Yeah.
Is there a halo effect that, oh, the boss shows up, let's all put a smile on our face because nothing can possibly be wrong right now. That's not okay in front of the boss. Is there fear? Is there insecurity? Is there newness? Did someone just start their job and they've got an insight, they've got a concern, but they don't really want to say it because, well, I'm the new person here. I can't share that right now. I'm still in my probationary period, right?
Well, I don't want to be rejected. I don't want to cause conflict aversion, right? They're all very powerful emotions that keep us like with candor, right? And candor, it's a valuable thing, but also guardedness can be useful in a sense, right? So we've got these two competing narratives happening, right?
And the reason that we wanted to drive home on this candid point today and the solutions for success, because if you're willing to either watch live or watch this after the fact, you are somebody who wants to be successful, right? And in order to be successful, it requires you to have great communication, great relationships, and we got to unlock that vault when it comes to candor in relationships. So because it's a webinar, because this is a teaching session, we of course came up with 3 magical keys that will always work forever and ever, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's
3 keys. 3 keys for a vault.
But keep in mind, if you can't tell already, Josh and I, you will not get a doctoral dissertation in the next couple of minutes, and it won't go a full hour, I promise. Sorry if you wanted that longer nap. This is going to, we are practitioners. We're people enthusiasts and we're practitioners. And so we're going to talk about kind of the concept of 3 different keys to unlocking this vault, but then we're going to get into the nitty gritty of each one and actually give you things that you can do. So if you've got your notes app pulled up on your screen, or if you've got a notepad close by, stick with us. We're going to get to a couple of things that you can write down that I promise you can put to practice like within the next 2 hours at your workplace.
Yep. We like to be very practical. We talk about like actionable insights. If you can't take action on it, that's my biggest pet peeve when it comes to any sort of webinar or podcast. Like, nope, that sounds great in theory, but we've worked in the trenches. It actually has to work in the trenches.
What do I do?
Right? What do I actually do? Give me something to do. Land the plane, which is scary to do because we tell you something to do and it doesn't work. That's on us. But we'll take that risk and you can blame Mark. So,
oh yeah, I love blaming Mark.
Key number 1.
All right, key number 1. First key of the 3 when it comes to cracking the communication vault to get to candor, to be successful in relationships, is time. So when you think about time, time is both priceless and precious as an asset. It also is the most powerful tool you have as a human. So asset, precious, but also a powerful tool. So think about this, right? Like I know a lot of the world is wrapped up in like trying to distract us and trying to capture our time, trying to steal our time, trying to capture our attention. But when you stop and you've got a moment of margin, you've got a moment of silence, and you take a look at your kids and you go, wow, they're growing up so fast. Or you see a loved one and you go, wow, the years are really catching up. Or you woke up this morning and it was 50 degrees and you go, it's fall already, right? Like time can get away from us. And there is an innate understanding in humans that time is actually the most precious thing we've got, which is why, if you think about it and be honest with yourself on this one, would you rather have $0 and be 20 years old or have $100 million and be 90? I know that number of dollar signs is bigger than what you can probably fathom, but even at that big, do you want to sacrifice the time? Most of us, if we're honest, would probably rather be young and have an entire lifetime yet to explore and dream and adventure. That's the innate understanding of time. So if time is precious and valuable and is a tool that you can use in unlocking communication and relationships with others, you can make that time an investment, right? The time invested creates the space necessary to see and hear what we're missing. Are you blocking out time for the people in your life that you want to be successful with? And I know successful can be such a formal business word, and we're talking about relationships as well, but are you making time for family members, for partners, for spouses? Are you making time for kids? At work, are you making time for your colleagues? If any of you have an urgent deadline coming up in the next couple of days, guarantee you've got a time blocked out in your calendar for a project update, for working sessions that you can make sure to move that project forward. You're saying this work is valuable. It must be done. Therefore, I will devote time to it. But are you doing the same thing in relationships? The people who you serve, right? The people who report up to you. They're valuable. Those are relationships that you're trying to invest in to get candor so that you can get those insights and a perspective that you wouldn't have otherwise. Are you setting aside time there?
Well, and I would even say, Matt, are you setting aside time to be candid with yourself, right? Are you thinking through what does success mean to you, right? Because there is a myriad of different ways that success can play out in each of our lives. Like, what are your goals? Have you thought through them? Are they aligned with what you want or what someone else said you wanted? Like, right. So time, it is the foundational component. And we sometimes roll our eyes at the concept of it because it is just so basic. But more often than not, we deal with what's urgent rather than what's important, right? And to deal with what's important, you really have to be a master of your time.
Yeah, it's easy just to say, well, that's guys, this is pithy, but okay, take a look at your calendar. Have you made time for your own reflections? Have you made time for your goals? Have you made time for the most important people in your life? Is there a relationship that's struggling right now at home or at work? Well, have you invested time into it? Are you creating space to make that relationship better? Because if not, well, then you're not taking the power of time seriously. So Josh, what are a couple of things that we say, okay, Matt, got it. Yes, time valuable. It can be a tool to unlocking the vault to get candor. What are some tactical? Here's where you can write things down.
So how can we tap into the value of time, right? So if time has value, right? So it means it can be invested, but it also is utility, right? One of the things, and we start with this one because we routinely in the executives, the businesses, the companies, the leaders, whoever we're working with, we consistently find a lack of a one-on-one cadence, right? And so we say, if you're a leader in an organization or you have a domain, even if you have any like control over your domain at all, insist on some level of one-on-one cadence for the people that you have influence with or over, right? So you have to set aside time, yes, absolutely, to talk about projects, to talk about
deadlines,
metrics and those sort of things. There has to be space for that. A whole lot of companies don't actually create it, but also just to invest in understanding the broader picture, right? What are goals? What are dreams? What are aspirations? What do people want? And to what extent do they want to even share who they are, right? A one-on-one cadence, using that time in a consistent, predictable fashion is valuable. And we know this in our personal lives. How many times there's a difference between going out with a group of friends and going out one-on-one with your best friend. There's a difference if you are going out with your spouse and you invite along your best friend. Wait, what's going on here, right? That you don't invite
don't do that
to your date.
It's not
right?
an official recommendation.
They have a different word for it. It's called a double date, or not. So we understand that concept there, but in the professional context, are you setting aside one-on-one time? This will fundamentally change your domain, your organization, if you can implement that. The other is we have a CEO we work with who he does departmental listening sessions or small group listening sessions every quarter, right? And so if you are an executive level, like to be able to spend time in departments or with people that you don't typically see, just to hear and listen, you give them space to talk, to share insights that they might have that you just don't see because you're not in their seats, right? So it's another way that we can, if you're in a leadership role, set aside time to just listen.
This one's really fun. I love this one because in the digital age, it is really easy to send like a happy birthday text message, right? And some of you have the app that when you send happy birthday, then like the confetti magically appears in the background. Anyway, it's fantastic.
It's gorgeous.
But compare that experience, receiving a happy birthday text message with the confetti in the background, to getting a thoughtful handwritten card from somebody that they've put the time into putting words in the page. They took time to think about the words. They took time to write the words. They took time to get the card and the envelope and the stamp and the whole bit. It's very cumbersome, but they invested the time, which carries more weight as a gift of time from somebody. The text message that took 2 seconds, or the card that somebody invested like 15 minutes plus the thoughtfulness into that experience. Use your words. That can be a way you use time.
Well, and Matt, I always tell the story, like when I was working in as a resident director, when on move-in day, I would have a Post-it note that I would stick on each student's desk, like a notepad that said, I'm glad you're here. Welcome. It was simple. I didn't actually even know them yet. And at the end of that school year, it was probably 50% of the students would still have that sticky note on their desk. They didn't throw it away. There was something powerful about the investment of time in handwritten words, or just stopping to think about somebody, right?
Yeah.
So we have another organization we work with.
Mark's writing his handwritten cards right now. Well done, Mark.
Good job, Mark.
A+.
I literally have, as you're saying that, I'm literally doing thank you cards
That's amazing.
to my members right now.
It's powerful. Yeah, it really, really is. So we have another organization that does birthdays with the president. Again, it seems so basic, but every month, if you have a birthday, you get to spend time with the president, birthday cake with the president, right? And so it's just this may be one specific instance but how can you extrapolate it out? And if you just think, oh, he does it just during the workday,
no, we're talking, this is the president of a manufacturing organization. There are 2 shifts, and he goes in the middle of the night during his night shift and also has a birthday party there to really invest time into the people that he gets to work with.
So that's a very specific example, but how are you thinking creatively to leverage your most valuable asset to be around other people, right? And to know that they, matter. Whether this is friends or professional, depending on the context, go out for lunch or coffee, right? Invite someone out to sit across from them one-on-one, spend the invite, right? It will help increase candor because time is a container in which candor can happen, right?
Now, these are just a scattering of our ideas. We'd love to hear from you as well. So I think the chat is open. And so if you have an example of a way that either like Mark just did, right? So yeah, no, he's writing the cards. If there's something that you do with your time to invest in relationships to create that space for candor, drop it in the chat. Or if there's something that somebody has done for you to create that space and you really appreciate it, drop it in the chat. That way we all can be learning from each other as well. Right. So key number 1, time creates the space for candor to happen. But that just opens up the space. How do you actually then build the bridge between humans so that some of those insights, some of that unique perspective can hit the table in conversation? And that's key number 2, and that is trust. Trust is something that we talked a lot about when we were kindergartners, right? It was the no put downs, and it was the be a trustworthy person. And right now there's like the Leader in Me curriculum, which is fantastic. But honestly, when's the last time as an adult that you've used the word trust in conversation? It doesn't happen often. It is something that is constantly going on in our psyche when it comes to connection with people. Do I trust this person? Do I not? But we don't actually use the word that much anymore. But the word has a whole lot of power, and it can be used powerfully for human connections. And honestly, one of the best works on this topic is by Stephen Covey, right? And no idea is original or new to anyone, right? We all just are learning from everyone who's come before us, standing on the shoulders of giants kind of thing. So if you haven't read Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey recently or at all, put it on the top of your Audible list. Highly recommend it. It's a deep dive into how do people actually trust each other. And in that text, Covey lands on 2 vital components of trust, and that is character and competence. I'm going to unpack those just a little bit. So again, Josh can take over and kind of put these into the brass tacks of, well, then how can you be a trustworthy person, and how can you create trust in a relationship? So first of all, and I'm actually going to start with competence because it's the easier one, interestingly enough. When it comes to competence and trust, you will build more trust with people around you if you're competent, if you're in the right seat on the bus at the right time doing the right work, right? If you're able to deliver. Competence involves your skills, your track record, your deliverables, your ability to contribute to a collective. If you're in a group of people and you are under contributing, if you are underperforming, the people around you are not going to trust you as much. You could be the nicest person in the world, have the best motives, the best intent, but if you just aren't quite good enough at your job that everybody is kind of covering for you and everybody has to do other work to make up for what you're not able to bring to the table, there's going to be a lack of trust no matter how nice you are, right? And so it is vital that each of us, if we are looking to build trust in relationships, are we competent in that relationship? Are we self-learners? Are we self-driven? Are we taking a look at our contribution? Are we trying to be better today than we were yesterday? Are you constantly trying to grow your ability to contribute well? That's competence. If you can't deliver on what you're supposed to be delivering on, that's going to erode trust in relationships, whether it's on the home front or whether it's at work. Second vital component then of trust is character. This one's a bit more slippery, but it's very intuitive between people. Character, according to Covey, comes down to integrity, motive, and intent. And integrity, you're looking congruence, you're looking humility and courage, but character comes down to integrity, motive, and intent. And intent there is a powerful one, and that's what I'm going to land on. What is your intent in the relationship? What is your intent with the people around you? Is your intent to make their life better? Is your intent to develop them? Is your intent to bring them into the collective and have them be a vital contributor? Is your intent to include them? Or be honest with yourself, are you not thinking about them at all? Is your intent for your own purposes, your own desires. This is where we get into a little bit of selfishness as opposed to altruism and thinking about the people around you, especially for those of you in management and leadership roles. What is your intent? Because we've all been in the situation where a new leader, new manager comes in and they're competent, they do great work, but everyone kind of has the sneaky suspicion that they're just here for the title to continue to climb the corporate ladder to move on to the next thing.
We're really good at sniffing out ill intent. Like
We're
it's
really
just
good.
we have a nature of it because it kept us alive. It keeps us alive, right? Like it's hardwired in us.
So if the people around you don't know what your motive and intent are, if they can't see your integrity, your congruence, your courage, your humility, if that's not visible and evident, that will then erode trust, even if you're the most competent player in the room. So, Josh, how then can we as individuals be mindful of character and competence and intentionally do things so that we can build trust in the people around us? Because trust creates the safety. Trust helps. If you are a trustworthy person, people feel safe around you. They trust your intent, they trust your deliverables, and people can speak freely and confidently without fear of what you might do.
Right. Because if we're talking about this idea that you've got time as the container, right, and you've got trust as creating like the ability for people to feel like it's okay to share, right? Those we're trying to overcome those barriers to candor, and these are two of those tools, right? So you say trust. Well, it seems like one of those concepts, like because it's character and competence. Well, can it be built then? Well,
yes,
yeah, it can. And here's how I can prove it, right? You can build trust because think about going back to that conversation of would you share something with your mom that you wouldn't share with a friend or vice versa? Or what about other things you would tell your mom that you wouldn't maybe share with a cashier at Kroger, right? Why? Because you have developed a trust with a different person, right? And so there are actually intentional ways that you can build trust. They take time, ironically, right? But so how can we build trust? One of them is just you intend it, right? And I know that sounds so basic, but you really have to intend to build trust with someone. You have to be intentional and mindful. You have to talk about it. You have to use even asking the question like, hey, do you trust me on this? But it can be developed as we start to make it part of our vernacular, part of our thought, and part of what we're aiming for, part of our success, right?
And honestly, one of the hardest and most candid conversations I've ever had with somebody is to look at them and say, hey, have I lost some of your trust?
Mm-hmm.
And that person had to pause and think and say, yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Here's why.
Yeah. But you were vulnerable, right, in that space. So in order to even get that trust back, there had to be vulnerability, right? And so there's this phrase, vulnerability begets vulnerability. When we're willing to be open and share with someone, it's why when someone says, hey, can I tell you a secret? Or can I tell you, it's why we tend to cry with another individual, like not just by ourselves, right? There's this shared sense of connection, right? The serotonin release when we actually are vulnerable with someone else, when we share candidly with someone else, when we model it as leaders and say, hey, I'm going to talk about my failure, or I'm going to talk about my fear or my weakness. When I expose myself a bit, that is actually draws people in versus pushing them away, right? It helps to build trust because it shows that we are human. It shows that we are approachable.
Oh, yeah.
It takes us off whatever pedestal that we probably weren't on anyway, but maybe we had it in our mind. But also another way to do that is to ask questions. Mm-hmm. People love to talk about themselves. People love to be known. It is one of our most important human desires is to be known, right? How is that done? Through questions, right? Be curious about the people in your life. Be curious about the people that are on the team with you, whether you're leading them, reporting to them, or just working alongside them. Are you asking questions, appropriate questions, right? But are you curious? And there are tools and prompts that actually can help with this. One of our favorites it's a game actually called Cards Against Mundanity. I stumbled on it.
And some people that we've worked with would be rolling their eyes right now. We pull out the deck of cards and say, hey, we're going to ask some questions.
Well, but I actually heard about, I think it was an HBR podcast years ago, but it's developed off of the actually scientific research that put strangers in a room and had them run through this list of questions. And at the end of that hour or 2 hours together, they said they felt closer to each other than they did some of their own family because it was developing trust in sharing actually like tough questions, right? Mm-hmm. And so there are actual tools that can be used to help that.
Well, and Josh has been talking primarily about tools to help on the character side of things, right? To be a trustworthy when it comes to helping other people see and witness and bear witness to your character. But what about competence? This is a little bit more rigid, and so all of my HR business partners unite here on these. Does your organization have clear expectations? Set expectations, and whether it's job description, roles, responsibilities, domains, but also metrics for success. Does every single person in your organization know what it means to win in their role? If not, there's not clear expectations, and therefore They don't know if they're not competent. They don't know if they're not winning because there's not clear expectation. So are we all being clear with the people that we work with to say, hey, this is what winning looks like for you. This is where you need to be, because then somebody has the opportunity to rise to the occasion. You're being clear. There's no concern or fear of a gotcha moment. Likewise, then, is your organization holding people accountable for those expectations? And I know this is hard, and I know there's a lot of different approaches to accountability and coaching and counseling in the workplace to help get people on the right track. And you've got somebody you really like, you don't want to lose them for a lack of performance issue. I get it. But when it comes to competent, remember, competency is half of the trust. And if your team has one or two people on it that are not competent, either they're not the right person, they don't have the right skill sets, or maybe they're just in the wrong seat, that's going to erode trust all the way around the table. Everyone's trust in the organization and in leadership goes down when it's very clear that somebody's in the wrong seat. What are you doing as leaders or as HR professionals right now? What are we doing as influencers to make an impact there, to help people get into the right seat at the right time with the right training and the right skills, so that everyone around the table is a competent contributor, so that trust can thrive?
Yeah. So similar, if there's other ways that you found to be successful at building trust, drop them in the chat again, and we'll revisit maybe those at the end. If any of them surface that would be beneficial for the group, Mark will be kind of filtering through those. So trust, time, those are two tools that we all have them. We're all relatively familiar with them, right? So Matt and I, the third key that we want to talk about is actually something that you probably haven't heard of, because it's relatively new to us. And it's something we've stumbled upon as just this extra tool that we have, this extra approach that we can use when it comes to unlocking candor, candid conversation, and what we call even like actionable insights, right? So how do we, when those gaps that are in play in a relationship, in the workplace, those insights that are kind of hidden that we need in order to be successful, or in order to like kind of get an edge on the competition even, right? Or in order to just have better ideas and better collaboration, or to even just better care for people, right? Oftentimes that is what is hidden in these sort of gaps. And this VennSight model, which I'll explain here in a second, is something that we found to be really, really powerful in getting that extra level, right? Now, it also does presume that the time and the trust are there, because again, those are the kind of the ground and the container in which the other thing is happening. But this gives a kind of a leg up. It's for elite performers, maybe we'd say, but it can actually be used by anybody if you know what you're doing. So, but let me back up here. So quick story time, right? So where the aha moment came for me in this, I was working in an organization, and one of the senior leaders had a guy that was reporting to him. And he was a top performer. Like, he really, really liked this guy. He'd been with the company for years, but he had shifted to a new role in like a recent year. And it just didn't seem like maybe the right seat. Not because he wasn't good or trying hard. He just wasn't passionate about it. And he was burning out. And so I'm sitting with his executive, and he's like, Josh, I don't know what to do. I will hire someone tomorrow to replace what he's doing, because I know he doesn't like it. I know he's not thriving. And I know he would be so good at this other thing. And we need this other thing. But I'm just terrified that if I tell him that, if I try to move him, he's going to see as I think he failed, or that I think he's going to think I've lost confidence in him. And that's not what I want. I don't want him to leave. We need to keep him. And so he's like just torn up about this for a week, two, like it was a while. That same day I'm at lunch with the actual contributor, and he looks at me and he goes, Josh, I'm burnt out. I don't like my job. I can do it. I'm not passionate about it. I want to do this other thing. And he names off the exact things that this executive had mentioned he wanted him to do. He said, I see their need. I would be good at it. But he goes, I'm afraid to tell my boss. He's going to think I'm not loyal. He's going to think I don't have grit. He's going to think I'm giving up. And I'm like, light bulb moment, right? We needed that candor, right? So there was this gap that was left by this guardedness at work, right? Then in that gap, we often have what we said, there's power differentials, right? There is this halo effect. There is sometimes just blind spots, right? Like sometimes we are the emperor walking around with no clothes on, right? And we need somebody to just point it out, right? So it's when I realized that this idea of these like concentric circles, the insights we needed were at this overlap, but sometimes we just have this guardedness up, or we don't, for whatever reason, we don't share the information that we each need. In that instance, I was a third party. And I was able to step into that situation and actually go to both of them and say, you know what? They actually think the same thing. We can align here. And it worked out. And the guy is, I believe, still in actually that same role and thriving, right? Yeah. So what we found is that if you infuse a third party, they can often help you overcome the power differentials, the halo effect, conflict aversion, right? Our fear of rejection, or even just they can help us point out blind spots that someone else is unwilling to share to us, right? So this is where we, one of the ways that we employ this is called VennSight coaching. It can be the VennSight model. There's a lot of different ways this can be done. It can be done in a longer term situation. It can even be done in kind of a single instance, but just for the sake of example, how we do VennSight coaching, you can basically, it requires the three parties, right? So you have to have all three individuals involved. Oftentimes coaching is just, you pick an executive, you pick an underperformer, or someone just hires someone on their own and it's disconnected from the rest of their reality. Here we say there has to at least be the two tiers of leadership. There has to be the three individuals involved, because that's where you get those this overlapping circle, those insights, right? So the team lead is meeting with the VennSight coach themselves for coaching, actual coaching and development. The coach is pushing the executive, the senior leader, the manager, and saying, how are you growing? How are you performing? What are some ways that you're not?
How are you investing time? How are you becoming a trustworthy individual? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So they're infusing that in that situation. But then the team lead also meets with the team member, right? So the team lead and the team member have to have that one-on-one cadence. They have to be connecting in a coaching relationship themselves. And where we step into organizations, oftentimes that cadence isn't in place, but it can be taught and it can be trained. And so we work to infuse that and say, this also is a very powerful thing, because 90% of the insights do actually come from those. The candor really can happen in that situation. And then the coach also meets with the team member, right? Same thing, coaching, but also helping deploy strategies and growth plans and execution, but they're seen as a resource to them, not punitive, to say, hey, the company is investing in you, and also meeting with our senior leadership isn't exempt from this, right? We're all trying to grow together because that's how we succeed, right? So,
and this is how we approach and how we leverage the VennSight model at Leadership Top. This is how Josh and I engage in situations where people say, hey, come in, be a part, sit down with the executive, sit down with the contributor, the leader that reports to them, and provide those three layers. You know, help us discover that gap. But what if contracting somebody outside the organization isn't possible, right? What can you do from where you're at and say, well, who else around here can provide those conversations? So here's a couple of ideas for you if an outside party just isn't possible. Are you big enough of an organization that you have a training and development team? Yes, no, maybe so. If you are, is there any way that there's any kind of bandwidth, hour a week, 2 hour a week, that can start to be carved out in that training and development domain to make room for these individual conversations as opposed to classroom settings or webinars, like what we're doing right now, right? So training and development. If not training and development, because I know that's a big boy that's a big boy company team, right? Let's dial back in. What about an HR business partner? There's a reason that human resource professionals have been called business partners for decades, because the intent is that they kind of sit on the peripheral of the organization so they can mediate and step in and help connect all of the different humans inside of the organizations, acting as an advocate for everyone, not just one side or the other, right? So, and I know, I'm so sorry, HR colleagues out there, I'm so sorry. I know that you're already drowning. I know. I know. Is there any way at all? There are roles, responsibilities, activities that can be shifted around so that your HR team members that you've got on team already can start to provide some of this mediary, this third party coaching responsibilities. And if not, is there a beloved or tenured sage on your team? And this one's actually really fun. We come across this every now and then, that you've got somebody who is a part of the company. Maybe it's a family member of the founder. Maybe it's someone who's just been around longer than anyone else. They're trusted because they've been there. They're competent. They've got great character and everybody loves them. And honestly, because of the tenure, because of the years they've got in, their domain has a little bit of flexibility with the time. Can that sage, can that professional then be coached and be prepared to engage in this kind of that third party situation of helping two team members grow really well and unlock candor?
And it can also just be cross department heads, right? Somebody that it has a different context, that's objective. That's again, the third party says that they have less, they have a step back perspective, but also they are not quite as connected to like the emotional pull, right? They don't have the control. They don't have the ability to just fire or to be punitive, right? So there's it comes with that, like it removes some of those gaps.
Removing a lot of the barriers, right?
And so when Matt says he apologizes because it takes time, actually, what we would really, really encourage you to think back on this is to say, like, if I invest this time here, though, what else does it actually
Resolve.
unlock, right?
Yeah.
How much time, how much possibility for success, how many insights, how much is lost when the candor isn't in place, right? How many things are preventative? A stitch in time saves 9. It really is a stitch in time sort of thing when you set up your structure for time and trust and this type of interaction to be able to, it's preventative.
Yeah. So that was third key, the VennSight conversation. So let's recap. We're almost done here. We've got time for Q&A in just a little bit. So to recap, number 1, candid insights willingly offered provide you the wisdom you need from different perspectives, unique perspectives. People see things you don't see. So if you have candid communication in healthy, trusting relationships, you know more, you can be more helpful, you can serve better, and you and the people you work with can all be more successful. Yes, from a professional sense, but also from a human sense.
Yeah. And intentional, you've got to be intentional and to invest time in developing trusting relationships. Like the time, the trust is foundational, right? That really does unlock so much of the candor, because when you think the gaps that are there, the power differentials, the fear, am I going to get in trouble? Are they going to think of me differently? Trust and time really help overcome those barriers.
Yeah. And finally, if you're doing that foundational work of spending the time, investing the time, and building trusting relationships, especially in a professional context, then number 3 are you at a place where you could benefit from that third party to really enhance and take your leadership, take your team, take your leaders in the organization to the next level where you need to go to be successful as an organization?
Yeah. Mark.
And that's what we've got. And any questions for us, clarifications? We've got just a couple of minutes here. Anything on the chat channel that came through that people
actually,
are
Heather says, as a new HR leader at Larson Danielson, I have started doing coffee chats every Wednesday morning with a team member. It's been very valuable in building a relationship and understanding the entire topic revolves around that person, what they like at work, what can improve, what are their goals, things they may not run to their direct report to share. At the end of every conversation, they've been thankful for me to take the time to listen to them. This life is really all about relationships.
Beautiful.
Well done, Heather,
100%, Heather.
Well,
Well
Heather,
done.
I think she
Love
also
it.
taps into like the idea of like, it sounds like usually if you're doing coffee, you're doing it off-site, right? And so it can build that, like it can break down that barrier of just being in the office and being in the same space. It kind of shifts it up, and our brain is a bit more relaxed when we're outside of that context. So,
well, and someone cares, someone's listening, someone's asking questions, and it sounds like some of the questions that you're asking are beyond the just day to day. Like, all right, well, what don't you like about around here, right? No, where are you going? What do you want? Like, that's Heather. That's remarkable. Love it.
Evan says, I make rounds to the doorways of my office to be sure I've listened to each of them at least once per week. It has made a difference.
Yeah. Well, and I'm regularly surprised at managers, leaders, executives that don't make rounds, right? Is there a room in the building? And whether it's, I know individual offices are a little bit different, but let's say there's a room that has an entire team in it. Are you in that room at least weekly, if not daily, right? Like, how often? I realize life gets busy. All of us have packed calendars, but if you're in a leadership position in an organization and you're not physically present on a continual basis, even if it's just, hey, good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Hey, hope you have a great day. Even just that you invested the time there.
well, and the problem is if you don't do that when there's nothing to say, then your presence begins to be feared too, right? So if you set foot in there when it's just, hey, I'm just popping in to say hi because I like you and you're doing a good job. Then when you pop in, you actually do have something to talk about. Like they're not, why is he here? Why are you in this room? Right? The fear goes up, right? So it really sets a good pattern for future conversations too.
Heather says HR is drowning at times, but the return on that time is invaluable as their partner.
Yeah, love it. I love that attitude. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I want to reiterate what you guys said too about the, we kind of joked that I was writing thank you cards, but it really does make a difference. And I know when I get them, Josh and Matt, as I mentioned before, they maximize their membership. They use our office space here quite a bit. It's just part of what we do for being a member. These guys are great guys. They're very respectful of the space and clean it up. I got a thank you card from them a couple weeks ago. And it just, when you get that handwritten thank you card, it's what you said. It just, you stopped what you were doing during the day. You put your words to paper, and it makes a huge difference. So something as simple as that, it's the easiest thing not to do during the day because you get busy. But I start my day every morning by doing 5 thank you cards. And it just makes a difference.
Yep. And it really just frames your mind right. I can tell when Matt spent time writing thank you notes in the morning versus when he's not. It really does change his demeanor.
I'm a lot happier.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? This was great, guys. Thank you for your time today.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're watching this after the fact, you've got our contact information there. Jump to the website, drop us a note. If there's any other questions, if there's any way that we can be helpful for you or your organization, we love this region. We love being here. And we love being helpful to businesses and professionals. So, Mark, really appreciate the time, sir.
Yeah, get a hold of these guys. They're really, really good guys. Obviously know what they're talking about, and I promise you it'll be fun. It'll never be boring with these two. I've seen them in many situations. And
we made it through without you pulling the plug, so we consider that.
I
Just waiting for the bars and the beep, you know.
we had the big gong show hook that they were going to come just get you and pull you off, but we didn't have to. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your support of the chamber and for the information today for our members. Really appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks, Mark.
Have a great one, everyone.
Evan Starks in Financial, I'm going to give you the final word. Thank you again for all that you do and your support and for bringing us these programs like today.
Oh man, thanks for having us and giving us the opportunity. Appreciate your content, Josh and Matt. I learned a lot, took some notes, and I'll be implementing some of that quickly.
Yeah. Next, Solutions for Success, October 5th on business succession planning. Again, hope to see you at the member briefing Tuesday morning at 8 virtually, and then Wednesday at the business after hours at the Logan Center on Jefferson. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you for your support of the chamber. If I can ever do anything for you, you please let me know, and we'll see you soon. Thank you for all your time this morning, and Josh and Matt, thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark.
Take care.